Well, the former police officer charged in the death of Daunte Wright is facing up to 10 years in prison. Kim Potter is charged with second-degree manslaughter. Many may be wondering what will happen next in this case. Civil rights attorney James Channon is joining us now to answer some of those questions. Mr. Channon, thank you for joining me. I assume Ms. Potter is set to appear in court sometime in the coming days?
Yes, that's correct.
Can you break down for me what she's charged with? Because it is second-degree manslaughter, correct?
Yes. I'm having trouble hearing you. I'm sorry.
Oh, we seem to be having some technical difficulties here. Mr. Chan, can you hear me now?
Yes. Your voice sounds a little rubbery, but I can hear you.
Okay. Can you break down what second-degree manslaughter charges mean?
Yes. The most important thing about second-degree manslaughter and why I think it's being charged here is it doesn't involve scienter or intent. It basically the person's culpable negligence whereby a person creates an unreasonable risk and consciously takes chances of causing death or great bodily injury is the charge in question here. Now, some have raised the issue of racism because Mohammed Noor was charged in 2017 when he killed a white woman. But in that case, he knew that he had a gun, and evidently that's the reason that the district attorney didn't try Ms. Potter on the more serious charge. And I don't know, there was a 2-to-1 Court of Appeals decision, but he definitely knew Noor that he had a gun. And Ms. Potter, Officer Potter, I believe she did not know that. So perhaps that was the difference. At least that's what they're saying to us.
Hopefully you can still hear me here. Usually I feel like we don't see body camera footage of an incident like this as quickly as we did this week. What does it say about the situation that the department released her body camera footage so quickly?
Well, I think it should always be released quickly in an incident like this because of the public's right to know and the distrust of police, particularly by members of the African American community. And this young man was a victim of police violence. And I think it was appropriate to release this to at least shed some transparency on the situation. I think that's important for a police department to do, especially in unfortunate situations such as this one. I think it's important to note that this young man was pulled over for an expired tag. And recently, my family was driving, and my wife had no tail lights, and the officer just pulled us over and said, next time, please make sure you get your headlights repaired. And they could have done that to this young man, but they didn't. And I think that's implicit or explicit bias by the Minnesota law enforcement. I mean, it's something they could do, but I don't think they would have done it to someone like me, a 74-year-old white person. I think they would have just given me a warning and maybe a fix-it ticket. I think that the escalation here was uncalled for, and obviously the shooting was too.
Well, I think it seems in the video that they were going back to his car because he did have a warrant out, correct? And that's, I think, why he was even being asked to get out of the car in the first place.
Right. And I'm talking about that they wouldn't have run him through for a warrant, that this would have gone away. It was a low-grade gun charge. It was a misdemeanor charge. And I think that immediately they escalated instead of de-escalated. And I think that's not what they do to white people. I just don't think it is. Based on my experience of almost 50 years as an attorney. It's just not the way it happens to Caucasians. He did have that warrant. You are correct.
And to those who say, you know, he tried to hop back in the car, of course, it seems that there's, we've talked a lot about police training and the right thing that they should be doing in a situation like that. We heard from the family members of Oscar Grant earlier this week reacting to this, saying, you know, they could have just let him drive off. They know who he is. They could find him another way. So to have such a struggle, they felt that that was not necessary. And I'm sure you feel the same.
That's right, and they're 100% correct. And if you put on top of it that the young man was scared, he called his mother. He said he was being pulled over. He was obviously terrified. And people are terrified in the African American community, particularly young men, when officers open the door and tell them to get out of the car. They're afraid. They don't know what to do. And I think that has to come into a policy of de-escalation, where she could have said things, and we heard her talking. She could have said things like, look, we're not going to hurt you. Please come out. And then they could have stood back. They knew he didn't have a gun. This is things they could have done where this young man would have been alive today. And moreover, I think it's something they would have done to an old white guy like me.
Right. I don't know that they didn't know that he had a gun. Again, there was a warrant out for him in regards to a gun charge. So, again, not saying that any of this is, that the death of this man is justified in any way, shape, or form. But I do think that we need to be as specific as we can be. I don't know that they didn't know for sure that he didn't have a weapon, of course. But again, her saying that she, you know, taser, taser, taser over and over again, it does, you know, it seems the manslaughter charge is the correct charge in this situation.
Yes, I agree with that. But as far as a gun is concerned, they could have asked him to put his hands on the wheel. And then if he didn't do that, then they could have escalated at that point. But there is no instruction, look, we're not going to hurt you. Please keep your hands where we can see you. And then it wouldn't have mattered if he had a gun somewhere in the car, which as it turned out he didn't, because he wouldn't have been able to get to them. He would have kept his hands on the wheel. They could have made the arrest on the warrant if that's what they wanted to do. And that's the way they would have done it if he was different, if he was older, and if he was a different race. I think after these incidents start mounting up, you have to look for why they happen to African Americans and Latinos disproportionately to white people. And there are reasons. I'm not saying the officers weren't technically justified in some of the things they did, certainly not shooting him, but the whole approach from the moment they pulled him over was very different than it would have been for someone else.
Mr. Shannon, anything else that you'd like to share about what people can expect in the coming weeks during this trial?
You mean the Derek Chauvin trial? Oh,
I'm sorry. No, in Ms. Potter's case, what can we expect to happen going forward?
Well, I think that she'll be arraigned, and there'll be various motions, that I don't think they'll go anywhere, but they might. And then there'll ultimately be a trial. I doubt she'll take a deal, and her claim will be that she thought that, as is clear, it's clear she thought she was using a taser, but the charge in question it does not matter what she thought. It's that she caused his death using culpable negligence. And I don't think that they were trained to do this. You don't see other officers doing this every day. We did see one in Oakland with the BART police and Johannes Measuredly, and he made the same claim, and he was charged and he was convicted of involuntary manslaughter. And I think that's the appropriate charge and the appropriate conviction in this case, unless there's some facts I don't know about.
All right, Mr. Shannon, thank you for joining us.